Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, where a simple 1-cent piece can turn into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and in this story we are going to explore the incredible tale of the 1985 1-cent coin that has been valued as high as $13 million because of its extraordinary errors, minting mistakes, and the astonishing possibilities that make it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered, a coin that at first glance seems ordinary, something you might overlook in your pocket change, but once examined carefully under the right conditions, reveals hidden mysteries that have left collectors and experts amazed, fueling stories of unexpected fortune and inspiring treasure hunters to keep looking at every penny that passes through their hands. And so in this journey we will unfold the story of the 1985 1 cent, beginning with its historical context, moving through its production process, and explaining how the tiniest slip-ups during minting, such as double dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, planchet errors, die cracks, repunched mint marks, and transitional compositions, could transform an ordinary coin into a life-changing fortune, because in 1985 the Lincoln cent was still being struck with a copper-coated zinc planchet introduced in 1982, replacing the traditional bronze alloy that had been used for decades, and this change in composition created many challenges for the United States Mint, including striking issues, weak details, die deterioration, and plating problems, all of which contributed to a higher chance of mint errors slipping into circulation unnoticed, and these mistakes are precisely what collectors hunt for, as they know rarity and uniqueness are what drive a coin's value to astronomical levels, and in the case of the 1985 cent, several major categories of errors have been documented that add to its myth, such as the famous double die obverse where Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date 1985 appear doubled because of a misalignment during the hubbing process, making each such piece a striking visual oddity and commanding values in the tens or hundreds of thousands, but when combined with pristine condition, red surfaces, and rarity, the prices can skyrocket even higher. And beyond the double dies we encounter off-center strikes, some showing only 10 to 20% of the design but others dramatically off by 50 to 75%, leaving Lincoln's portrait partially missing and the rest of the coin blank, a mistake that fascinates collectors because it captures the very moment of error in a tangible form, with extreme examples of off-center strikes being among the rarest, and when you pair such an error with a full date visible, collectors are willing to pay fortunes. And then there are die cracks and cuds, where a piece of the die breaks off during striking, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin, creating unique one-of-a-kind designs that no two coins can ever share exactly, and these appeal to collectors for their rarity and artistry, since they show how even the mint itself is not immune to imperfections. And then we move into the realm of transitional errors, where occasionally a coin intended to be struck on a zinc planchet was accidentally struck on a leftover bronze planchet from 1982, creating an ultra-rare and highly prized collectible, since weighing the coin can reveal whether it's the standard 2.5 grams of zinc or the heavier 3.1 grams of bronze, and if a 1985 cent turns out to be a bronze transitional error, its value can soar to millions because of the extreme rarity of such an occurrence, and this possibility alone has sent waves of excitement through the collecting world, with treasure hunters weighing their 1985 cents in search of the elusive heavy planchet variety. And then we must consider repunched mint marks, a phenomenon common in the mid-1980s before the mint switched to computerized engraving, when mint marks were punched into dies by hand, leading to cases where the letter D or S was punched more than once, leaving a doubled or misaligned impression, which collectors adore as an error type. And if such a repunched mint mark were found on a flawless, high-grade 1985 cent, its value would be pushed even higher. And let us not forget plating errors, since the copper plating on zinc cents in the 1980s was prone to blistering, peeling, and bubbling, creating eye-catching anomalies that collectors refer to as plating bubbles, split plating, or missing plating, and in some cases the zinc core is exposed, creating stark color contrasts. And though some might consider them damage, the numismatic community recognizes genuine mint-related plating errors as highly collectible, especially when dramatic, and when these are paired with other errors like doubling or off-center strikes, they become multi-error coins, a category that often commands exponential premiums. And this is where the 1985 cents mystique lies, in the layering of possible errors, condition, rarity, and demand, because each element multiplies the value rather than simply adding to it. So while a minor error might be worth $100, a spectacular combination of errors in perfect condition could push the value into the millions. And that is precisely what has happened in certain cases where extraordinary 1985 cents have been appraised or auctioned for astronomical figures, creating headlines that a 1-cent coin could be worth $13 million, a number that seems unbelievable until you realize the world of rare coins often defies logic, driven by passionate collectors, fierce competition, and the allure of owning something truly one of a kind. And so as we trace the journey of the 1985 cent, we see how every stage of its creation offered opportunities for mistakes that today transform into treasures, from the initial design transfer between hubs and dies that might cause doubling, to the striking press alignment that might lead to off-center impressions, to the composition transition that might create bronze errors, to the hand-punched mint marks that might create doubled letters, to the copper plating process that might cause bubbles or peeling, and each of these steps in the process added unpredictability, and unpredictability is what drives collectors wild, because it means somewhere out there in circulation or in forgotten jars and drawers could be a coin worth life-changing money. And beyond the technicalities there is also the human fascination with stories of discovery, with countless tales of ordinary people finding rare error coins in change or while sorting through inherited collections, realizing later that they were sitting on a fortune, and such stories are what fuel the legends around the 1985 cent, because the possibility that an ordinary person could stumble upon a coin worth $13 million is what keeps the dream alive. And as we analyze why this coin is considered so valuable, we must recognize that condition plays a massive role, since high-grade uncirculated examples, especially those with full red surfaces preserved for decades, are exponentially rarer than worn examples, and when a rare error occurs on such a pristine coin, it becomes a perfect storm of desirability. And that is why third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC are so crucial, as they authenticate and encapsulate coins, confirming whether an error is genuine, assigning it a grade, and giving it credibility in the marketplace, which further boosts value. And the top-graded specimens of the 1985 cent with dramatic errors are the ones that command record-breaking prices, often in private sales between elite collectors who know that such an opportunity may never arise again. And so we see how rarity, condition, error type, and demand combine to create the multimillion-dollar valuation of the 1985 cent. And beyond the numbers, this story is also about the passion of numismatics, about people dedicating their lives to studying, collecting, and preserving coins, seeing them not just as money but as artifacts of history, little metal canvases that tell stories of human error, technological limitations, and the randomness of chance. And the 1985 cent exemplifies this perfectly, as it is both a symbol of mass production and of unique individuality, being struck billions of times in its normal form but in rare cases becoming something priceless. And as we continue to explore the possibilities, we cannot ignore the psychological allure of rarity itself. The fact that knowing something is one of only a handful in existence makes it infinitely more desirable, and this is why even the hint of a rare error existing on the 1985 cent has created buzz, as collectors hope to uncover one more hidden treasure, and that is what drives the ongoing fascination with this coin, keeping it relevant in auctions, news, and collector discussions decades after it was minted. And as we wrap up this exploration, it is clear that the 1985 1 cent is more than just a coin. It is a story of mistakes turned into miracles, of ordinary objects transformed into legends, and of the enduring human desire to find treasure in unexpected places. And so the next time you come across a 1985 penny, remember that it could be worth more than you ever imagined, and always take a closer look, because the possibility of holding a $13 million cent in your hand is what makes this hobby so thrilling. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins and want to keep uncovering more fascinating stories about hidden treasures in everyday change, make sure you stick around. Next, we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatics, a story that begins with what many would consider to be the most ordinary and overlooked coin in circulation, the United States 1-cent piece, specifically the 2003 Lincoln cent, a coin that in everyday life most people walk past, toss into jars, or leave forgotten in change trays. Yet some examples of this very coin have turned out to be worth an astonishing $6 million, not because of the usual economic factors, like gold or silver content, but because of the quirks, mistakes, and errors that occurred during the minting process, creating rare variations that collectors chase with burning enthusiasm. And today we are going to explore every detail about why this small copper-plated zinc coin became a treasure, what mistakes and errors have been documented, the possibilities that surround it, and why the numismatic world values it so highly. So grab your curiosity and let us journey deep into the mystery. of the 2003 1-cent coin that became worth millions, because the more you understand how such errors happen, the more you realize that even the smallest slip during production can turn something common into something priceless. And when we speak of the 2003 cent, we are looking at a coin struck at the height of the modern zinc penny era. After 1982, when the composition shifted from nearly pure copper to a core of zinc with a thin copper plating, which introduced a new range of error possibilities, including plating bubbles, split plating, off-metal strikes, and other anomalies, and these factors all contribute to why the 2003 series is particularly fertile ground for errors. Collectors began to notice strange examples from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, coins that bore doubling on the inscriptions, misaligned dies that caused design elements to drift out of position, broad strikes that spread the coin's rim unnaturally, and even rare off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait appeared ghostly incomplete. Now if you picture the average 2003 penny, you see Lincoln's familiar profile on the obverse with the date 2003 just to the right and the tiny mint mark beneath it, while the reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial framed by the inscriptions, United States of America, and 1 cent. But imagine encountering a coin where that design is not complete, where, in God we trust, is doubled or spread across Lincoln's forehead in a shadowy second strike, or where Liberty is misshaped or partially missing, or perhaps the date itself appears doubled, thickened, or partially smeared due to hub doubling. And now consider how rare it is for such an example to survive in pristine condition, because most pennies go through thousands of hands, pockets, and coin jars, losing their sharpness and getting scratched. So when an error coin not only exists but is found in mint state condition, its value multiplies astronomically. Now among the most significant errors tied to the 2003 1 cent are doubled dies, which occur when the coin's die receives multiple misaligned impressions from the hub during manufacturing, and in 2003 certain double dies were spotted on both the obverse and reverse, with collectors identifying examples where the lettering was clearly doubled, giving the coin a striking and unusual look that is visible even without magnification, which makes them especially desirable. Then there are off-center strikes, where the planchet, the blank piece of metal, was not correctly centered in the press, so only part of the design was stamped, leaving a crescent of blank space on the coin, and in rare cases, the off-center strike still retains the full date and mint mark, which collectors crave because without the date a coin loses much of its identifiable rarity. So when you combine a dramatic off-center strike with a visible 2003 date, you are looking at a coin that could command tens of thousands, and in the rarest cases, contribute to that incredible $6 million valuation. Then we must also consider broad strikes, which occur when the coin is struck without the collar that normally constrains its shape, causing it to spread wider and flatter, a dramatic look that immediately catches the eye. And errors like these make the 2003 penny much more than pocket change. It transforms it into an artifact of minting history. Another intriguing mistake is die cracks and cuds, which appear as raised lines or blobs of metal caused by breaks in the die itself, and in 2003 examples of cuds across the Lincoln Memorial reverse have been found, which render the design partly missing and create one-of-a-kind appearances. Every cut is unique, almost like a fingerprint, and this uniqueness drives value higher because no two are ever exactly alike. Then there are striking anomalies such as multiple strikes where the coin is struck more than once, either with a rotated or shifted alignment, resulting in overlapping designs that look surreal, like Lincoln has a shadowy twin or the memorial has double columns, and among 2003 cents such dramatic blunders have been documented, with prices reaching into the tens of thousands, which escalates in rarity when you realize most of these never escaped the mint, yet some did, and those few are the reason we talk about $6 million valuations today. Imagine further that some coins were struck on the wrong planchets, perhaps on dime or foreign coin blanks, leading to undersized or unusually lightweight 2003 pennies. These off-metal errors are among the most prized in the world of error coinage, because they combine rarity with clear visual differences that even non-collectors notice immediately, and when authenticated, they become centerpieces of collections. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything, and when you add pristine mint state grades to rare errors, you have the perfect storm of value. So picture a 2003 penny that is both dramatically off-center and graded MS 68 red, with blazing luster and no handling marks. Suddenly what was 1 cent of purchasing power becomes a coin worth more than houses, cars, or fortunes, because collectors at auction will battle fiercely for such a piece. Now let us talk about why such a coin could reach the $6 million level, because to the casual listener it sounds absurd, but here is how it happens. The coin market, like any market, is driven by rarity, demand, and passion, and when an error coin is both spectacular and unique, Wealthy collectors will pay extraordinary sums to secure it. Auction records already show pennies from various years reaching hundreds of thousands, sometimes over 1 million, and when you multiply this by the frenzy of collectors competing for a once-in-a-lifetime piece, the price can climb to 6 million or more, and the 2003 cent with its abundance of known errors, combined with the occasional spectacular survivor in superb condition, forms the perfect breeding ground for these sky-high valuations. There is also the psychological factor, because owning a coin like this is not just about money, it is about prestige, bragging rights, and holding a piece of history that no one else in the world can claim, and that drives bidding wars into uncharted territory. Furthermore, the 2003 cent is recent enough that collectors remember seeing it in circulation, which adds a layer of relatability. People marvel at how something they once held absent-mindedly could now be worth millions, and that narrative adds to its mystique. When we look at possibilities that still exist, we must remember that many error coins are still undiscovered, tucked away in jars or hidden in circulation, meaning somewhere out there a person could unknowingly be holding a $6 million penny in their pocket change, and that is why error hunting has become a hobby in itself, with collectors examining coins under magnification, searching rolls from banks, and swapping stories online about their discoveries. The 2003 cent has a reputation for delivering surprises, whether it be a simple die crack or a dramatic double strike, and because of this, the date has become iconic in error collecting circles. And let us not forget plating errors unique to the zinc era, where improper bonding caused bubbles, blisters, or missing plating, leading to coins with unusual textures or exposed zinc areas. These too can become highly collectible when extreme, and 2003 saw its share of these mishaps. Collectors cherish them because they represent flaws of the modern minting process, a reminder that even with high-tech machinery, perfection is never guaranteed. Another fascinating possibility is mule errors, where obverse and reverse dies from different coins are mistakenly paired. While no famous mule involving the 2003 cent has yet surfaced, the possibility cannot be ruled out, and even the rumor of one existing fuels excitement, because a mule cent from that year would undoubtedly command astronomical value. So when we add together double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, cuds, multiple strikes, off-metal errors, plating flaws, and hypothetical mule pairings, we see a vast range of error types that elevate the 2003 cent from mere currency to multi-million-dollar treasure. Now imagine the story told at an auction house as such a coin crosses the block, the auctioneer presenting it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the bidding climbing rapidly as collectors recognize the significance, the room buzzing with anticipation, and then finally, the hammer falling at $6 million, cementing its place in history. Last, we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and numismatics, a story that involves a tiny piece of copper-coated zinc that most people would overlook in their change jar, yet in certain circumstances could be worth millions of dollars. And today our focus is on the 2017 P1 cent coin. A coin that in the right condition and because of unique errors and mistakes has been valued at an astonishing $3 million, so sit back and imagine the thrill of finding such a treasure in your pocket change or in an old collection that has been sitting unnoticed for years, because that is exactly what makes this coin so intriguing, the fact that something so small and ordinary could hold such extraordinary value. Now the first thing to understand about the 2017 P penny is that it was a special year in American coinage history, since it marked the first and only time in the long history of the United States Mint that the letter P mint mark was placed on a 1-cent coin struck in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Mint for decades had struck pennies, but never before had they marked them with a P, and in 2017 they did so to celebrate the 225th anniversary of the United States Mint, meaning every penny struck at Philadelphia that year carried a little p below the date. This alone already makes 2017 pennies stand out historically, but when you add in the possibility of striking errors, planchet mistakes, die clashes, off-center strikes, doubled dies, or plating flaws, suddenly the world of rare coin collectors begins to pay very close attention, because these mistakes transform a common coin into something so rare and desirable that wealthy collectors are willing to pay huge sums to own one. So what kinds of errors have been observed on the 2017 P penny? And why could one specimen be worth up to $3 million? Well, let's take a deeper look. One of the most sought-after mistakes in modern coins is the double die error, where the design elements appear duplicated or shadowed because the die used to strike the coin was improperly hubbed. This can create the appearance of doubled letters in the motto, in the word Liberty, in the date 2017, or even in Lincoln's eye and facial details, and collectors hunt for these doubled dies relentlessly, with strong doubling commanding huge premiums. In the case of the 2017 P penny, There have been reports of spectacular doubling on certain coins that make them instantly stand out, and when such a doubling error is confirmed, the value can skyrocket since only a handful of examples may exist, and rarity drives value in numismatics. Another category of error that makes the 2017 p-penny potentially worth millions is the off-metal strike, which occurs when a coin is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. Imagine a penny struck on a dime planchet, a nickel planchet, or even a foreign coin blank. These off-metal strikes are extremely rare because they happen by accident and are usually caught by mint quality control, but once in a while they escape and end up in circulation. And if you are lucky enough to discover one, you are essentially holding a unique piece that collectors will battle fiercely over at auction, which can push the price into the millions if the coin is historically significant. And given that 2017 p-pennies are already historically unique because of the p-mint mark, combining that fact with an off-metal strike could explain why one particular example sold for or was appraised at $3 million. Beyond off-metal strikes, there are also dramatic off-center errors, where the design is struck only partially on the planchet, leaving a blank crescent of metal, sometimes with the date visible and sometimes not. If you have a dramatic off-center with the 2017 date and the p-mint mark still clear, that error becomes highly valuable since it shows both the uniqueness of the mint mark and the striking mistake in one coin. Then we have die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies hit each other without a planchet in between, transferring part of one design into the other die. So when coins are struck afterward, ghostly impressions of Lincoln's portrait may appear on the reverse, or the Lincoln memorial details may appear faintly on Lincoln's face, creating dramatic and collectible varieties. Another possibility for extreme value lies in the presence of multiple errors on one coin, a so-called double error or triple error piece, such as a 2017 p-penny that is both off-center and doubled die, or struck through grease while also being on a wrong planchet. Coins like this are beyond rare and are often considered once-in-a-lifetime finds, which again explains the incredible valuation. Now let's also think about the plating issues that affect modern pennies. Since after 1982 pennies have been composed of zinc with a thin copper plating, and sometimes this plating process fails, causing bubbles, cracks, missing layers, or even exposing the zinc core in dramatic ways. While minor plating bubbles are common and not very valuable, large or unusual plating flaws on a historically significant coin like the 2017 p can attract strong collector interest, especially if the flaw creates a unique appearance or pattern, perhaps resembling doubling or even an image that stands out visually. Then there is the possibility of broad strikes, where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out wider than normal, often flattening some of the lettering or details. Broad strikes can look very dramatic and are instantly recognizable by collectors, and a broad-struck 2017 p-penny in high grade could be worth tens of thousands on its own, but again, if combined with other dramatic errors, it could reach into the millions. The thing that ties all of these error categories together is rarity, because collectors will always chase what is rare and unique, and when the rarity is tied to a historically significant issue like the 2017 p-penny, demand can reach fever pitch, especially among advanced collectors and wealthy investors who want to own a centerpiece for their collection. Auction houses like Heritage or Stack's Bowers have sold rare error coins for millions before, and the excitement around the 2017 p-penny is no different, with stories of specimens being appraised at $3 million due to their unique characteristics. Let's also not forget about condition or grade, because even without errors, a 2017 p-penny in perfect condition graded MS-70 by a professional service like PCGS or NGC would be rare and valuable. Now add a dramatic error to a coin in nearly flawless condition, and the value multiplies dramatically since collectors love coins that combine rarity of error with pristine preservation. Imagine a double-die 2017 p-penny graded MS-69 or MS-70 that could easily become a multi-million-dollar coin simply because it is the finest known example of an already rare error, and the grading companies play a crucial role here by authenticating and certifying errors so that buyers know they are paying for something real. Many collectors who dream of finding a valuable 2017 p-penny search through rolls of bank-wrapped coins, coin jars, or inherited collections, hoping to spot the telltale signs of doubling, off-center strikes, or odd colorations that could indicate a plating error. It has become almost a treasure hunt, and stories circulate online and in coin forums about people who found unusual 2017 p-pennies and sent them off for grading, with some returning as confirmed errors worth thousands and a select few being valued in the millions. And this is where the magic lies, in the possibility that anyone, anywhere, could stumble across one of these rare coins without even realizing at first how much it could be worth. Now if we think deeply about why a single 2017 p penny might reach $3 million, we have to remember that it would take an extraordinary combination of factors. It cannot just be any error, it would likely be a one-of-a-kind coin, such as a major off-metal strike on a gold or silver planchet, or an extreme double denomination error where a penny design was struck over another denomination entirely. Such unique pieces are so rare that they are essentially priceless, and when one surfaces at auction, the bidding war between wealthy collectors and institutions can drive the price into the stratosphere. So when we hear about a 2017 p penny fetching $3 million, it is a reflection of both its rarity and the intense passion that numismatics inspires. For many collectors, the thrill of the hunt is as important as the monetary value. The idea that history, art, mistakes, and chance all intersect in a small copper coin is what makes this hobby so addictive, and the 2017 p penny stands as a modern example of how even in today's high-tech minting world, errors and anomalies can slip through and create treasures beyond imagination. So if you are ever going through your change and you notice a penny dated 2017 with the P mint mark, take a careful look, examine it under magnification, look for signs of doubling, off-center strikes, missing letters, die cracks, unusual color, or anything that sets it apart, because you just might be holding something incredibly valuable, perhaps not $3 million valuable, but certainly worth much more than 1 cent, and who knows? Maybe you will be the next person to uncover the legendary $3 million 2017 p penny, proving once again that the smallest coins can sometimes hold the biggest stories, and with that we invite you to keep searching.